Welcome to the Property Untangled. I'm Dave Petersen on 107 FM. This is the show where we take a deep dive into the property sector. We cut through the noise and we talk about what's really happening in the market across Hull and East Yorkshire. Each month we bring our conversations with investors, developers, brokers and just industry experts. We share real insights, opportunities and the practical strategies to help you make a smarter move in property. Whether you're buying your first deal, growing a portfolio or planning your exit, you're in the right place. This is Property Untangled with Dave Petersen. So we're going to jump into this one then. So our first conversation is with James Green, a broker with a really interesting journey into the property world. James didn't start out in finance or property. His background was actually rugby league. So we're going to unravel that transition, how you go from the discipline and structure of sport into the world of deals, financing, and help investors funding their portfolios. We'll talk about the skills that transfer across, what challenges he faced making the shift, and how the journey shapes the way he works with his clients. So James, thank you very much for joining me on the Property Untangled. Let's start. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's good to be here. As you said, my background started in professional sport. Got signed by Hull KR at 16. Worked my way through their ranks. Debuted at 21, and then had 12 years as a full-time professional rugby player. So my journey into property was from my days at Hull KR. So when you're speaking to the senior players and you start thinking obviously rugby's not going to last forever. What do I do? How do I plan? And a lot of the senior players had properties. So you just kind of think that's the logical thing, safest houses in it. So bought a couple of buy-to-lets whilst I was at Hull KR and really enjoyed that side of it. And then I started thinking, well, life after rugby, do I start managing other people's properties? And naively thought that's something you can kind of do around rugby, like a bit of property management. And then obviously knowing what I know now as a landlord, when you're getting those phone calls at 2 o'clock in the morning because toilet's not working or something like that, it's not something you can do around rugby. So kind of shelved that idea and then kind of almost stumbled across mortgage advising. I was at a wedding and got put on the young couples table and got chatting to a bloke and he kind of got me into it from there, and that was 8 years ago. So don't look back since really.
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, we've known each other 15 years now. We've shared that same changing room. I guess shared that same vision of playing professional sport, and that's all we ever wanted, right?
Well, that's it. You don't think about anything else, do you? It's like you grow up as a kid watching your heroes do it, and it's I want to be like them, and then. You always remember debuting, you just think I shouldn't be in this room. You're looking at some of the big names that have come from Australia and stuff, and it's what am I doing here? Yeah. And then I see myself as very fortunate. I probably shouldn't have played the number of games that I did. I got signed. I was the last of my friendship group when I played amateur at Skella to get signed pro. Yeah. It's almost like they'd got all the players they wanted. It's there's this one as well. We'll take him as well. If it weren't for Hull KR getting promoted and having to build an under 18s overnight, I probably wouldn't have got picked up. Yeah. I was the last one of our group in that changing room to debut as well. I saw everybody else debut before me, and then
I think debuted against Bradford. Was it Bradford?
Yeah, live on Sky on a Friday night. Got knocked clean out. Got suspended after. So I remember I got a £500 bonus for debuting, and I lost 300 of it in a fine. Yeah. So, watching
the biggest human took a low tackle, I think, wasn't it? And then,
I clashed heads with Chev Walker.
Yeah.
So I think this was back before all the new concussion rules, and I remember Ian the physio coming on, and I'm literally just waking up as he's stood over me, and he was "You all right?" And I was yeah, I think so, yeah. And he said, "Well, I probably should bring you off, but it's your debut, so I want to kind of leave you on. So it's I'll just keep an eye on you." I think I played about half an hour, and I barely remember anything.
We best not go down that route now because the game's changing massively.
Oh, massively, yeah. I
think we'll be here all day. Never mind talking, the business side of obviously your development. But it's quite often then. So you look at that you're looking at them senior boys. I've done that myself and going, where are they going life after sport? And we've actually tragically seen people not kind of go into a successful business and end up with a normal 9 to 5 job. Yeah. Not to discredit that, but to take that plunge from rugby league to the self-employment world. Is there anything that I guess, come from rugby to make that transition easier for yourself?
Oh yeah, I think if it weren't for rugby, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in now. Both from like a mindset point of view, kind of the head start it gives you as well. So when you're starting your own business, it's like you've already got quite a big network anyway, and a bit of a profile as well. So like when I then started advising, like all my first clients were like diehard rugby fans. So I already had people who knew who I was, so I didn't really start from a standing start, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think the network definitely helped, the discipline that you learn as well. But I just think the journey that I went through as well, like within 12 months, I was made redundant twice. Got Hull KR relegated in 2016, left there and signed for Lee, got them relegated. So my 2 contracts on the most money I'd ever been on were just torn up overnight. Then I'd gone to Castleford, they'd moved me on to Bradford on loan. Bradford went into special measures, so they couldn't re-sign me even if they wanted to. So like I had 3 contracts really that weren't worth anything. So going through that, you're just thinking, I need to just look after myself. Like, yes, you're part of this big organisation, but all these other things outside of your control can leave you jobless, really. So I went straight into self-employment, didn't know any different, and I just thought it's going to work because of me or in spite of me. I didn't want to leave it up to anybody else. It was going to be purely because of me.
Yeah. So that the control and the autonomy of that is your company. Obviously, you've got people working for you now as well, which you know, and I think you have employed a couple of rugby league players too, right?
Yeah. So we had some rugby lads on our books. Reece Evans is still with us. He's self-employed, and we had a couple of others, but when the market kind of changed 2022, 23, they found it really difficult being self-employed, and yeah, they took jobs elsewhere. But we've had some rugby players that have come with us. It was a bit of a running joke at one point where it's almost like you had to be a rugby player to work here, because that's all we had. But yeah, it's definitely been a hell of a journey, and I think you'd have seen it the same. When you're a rugby player, you don't really have much choice. You get told where you're going to be, what you're going to wear, how far you're going to run and how fast, what you're going to eat. Even when you go on like warm weather training or you travel abroad, you don't even carry your own passport. They take it off you, don't they? And it's like, we can't be trusted. So to go from such a structured environment, it's so nice to be able to do things how you want to do them on your own terms and like where you want to do them as well.
I struggle to go to the gym, mate. I struggle to go to the gym now because I think actually I've just got to kill myself. You know, I've got to do supersets, got to do this. Where naturally I'm seeing other people just enjoying the gym. I just really don't think I can get that out. You know, I go on a run and I'm just trying to kill myself, exhaust it. So
I'd gone completely the other way. I was like, I'm not doing half these exercises that we used to do. Like, can't remember the last time I deadlift. Can't remember the last time I did a chin up. I was like, I've had 20 years of doing that. Like, I'm just going to do what I want to do now. So
it's just chest and biceps now for your holidays.
Yeah, basically, it's anything that looks good in a t-shirt. That's what jeans are made for, aren't they?
Yeah, perfect. No, it's just really interesting, and I think people out there kind of really understanding that shift, you know, from being a professional sports player to, you know, the business world, and you know, let's face it, you know, James, you're controlling people's assets, you know, big financial commitments. How do you find that? You know, is it, you know, quite stressful? You know, how are you coping with that?
Yeah, it's that is the biggest stress of the job. Obviously, buying your house is the biggest thing most people will do in their life, and it's your home, it's your safe place. So for when things do go wrong, people are up in arms about it, and you spend a lot of your time kind of consoling people and just telling them it's absolutely fine, it's all going to work out. But we did commercial finance for a little bit, and that was completely different because it was purely business. People could walk away from that really easy. So from a business point of view, it's a great business to be in because people always want their own place. People in the UK, home ownership is a big thing compared to other countries where they're really not that bothered by it. So from a business point of view, it's a great sector to be in. But yeah, it comes with that stress where people are emotionally tied to it. So if things go wrong, they're very quick to get emotional. But you then get happy clients at the end of it. So then it starts to kind of like build itself. So, I mean, I moved house myself 2.5 years ago. Absolutely fine doing it for other people. But when it's my house, I hated every second of it. So, yeah, it's quite ironic, really.
Yeah, no, great stuff. Again, it's that transitioning, understanding it, helping people, but that's the biggest satisfaction. And like you rightly said, there's a huge community out there in rugby league itself, tapping into that, keeping the referral systems. That's the biggest important of business, right? We keep moving on them journeys, and I think the challenges are easier to overcome with people around you because business is quite lonely.
Yeah, and I think, well, you've been there yourself. Like when you go through rugby, like the roller coaster you go through with that, and the hardships you go through, you realise you've been through a lot worse. So, like pre-seasons, like physically, you've been through an awful lot worse. Yeah. The highs and lows of being a rugby player, mentally, you've been through a lot worse. So for me, yes, it's awful if somebody's case falls through or whatever. I know I've been through worse, so it's like for me, I'm quite level-headed in most situations. Like everyone else around me, like, oh my god, I'm like, it's fine, we'll just work it out, like we always have, and we always will. So that's something else that you kind of carry over from sport. But again, it's kind of ironic. I wanted to get off the roller coaster of rugby league, and then I'm in the roller coaster of like the property sector. So it's just like you just swap one for the other.
And you're quite deep. You're assisting people, yes, but you've got your own portfolio.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Was that the security after rugby? Because one of the biggest things is coming out of professional sport. We're living like you've already mentioned. Contract is day to day, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to get that security and backup. Was property that first step then? Your own property?
Yeah. So when I was at Hull KR, I was on like a half decent contract. Like it wasn't like life changing money, but it was half decent. And
people think rugby league players are paid this extortionate amount, especially for what we do, but it's certainly not happening.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Like you do like the promotional events and you go to like kids' schools and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, do you drive a Ferrari?" And I'm like, no. Yeah. It's like it's a salary cap sport, so you can only get paid so much, and it's working class as well. So yeah, I bought my first buy-to-let in 2016, my last year at Hull KR, and yeah, it was just a mess. Like I refurbed it myself. It took me 3 months. I had shoulder surgery partway through on my painting arm, so I was having to paint everything with my left hand. Finally got that on the market, but like learnt so much from doing it and absolutely loved it. And it was kind of a good distraction for me at the time as well, because like the 2016 season at Hull KR was just a train wreck. That was the year we got relegated. Yep. So it was a nice distraction for me to go and like I'd literally go for, because my first house was on Long Hill, so I'd finish at Craven Park and I'd drive to Long Hill, do a few hours, and then just take my mind off stuff. So it was a bit of a saviour, really. Then loved it, and then by the time I retired, I had about 5 or 6 properties, because the plan was I'm probably going to get this dip in income from Super League to whatever day job I get. So the portfolio income would subsidise that. And yeah, we did quite a lot in COVID when like house prices just went berserk. Like we were just like refinancing stuff after 6 months, and it had gone up like 30 grand. So got up to 7, and then we're sold 2. So yeah, we've got back down to 5 now. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's interesting that comes back down to the resilience, the changing. So you've always been accustomed to living life on the edge, right?
Yeah.
And I think property certainly has that same feel about it. Awesome, James. So really appreciate that. Look into the life of James, the transitioning from rugby league to the property world. I think what we're going to do in segment 2 is deep dive into the property market, how you're assisting and helping people at Green and Green Mortgages, and we'll go from there.
This is Property Untangled with Citygate North, connecting people, properties and investment opportunities across our region. For more information, visit citygatenorth.co.uk.
Welcome back to the Property Untangled with myself, Dave Petersen, on 107 FM. So let's broaden the conversation, and we're going to talk about the property market as a whole. There's a lot going on right now. Obviously, we've got the interest rates, lending criteria's changing, shifting, the investor confidence because of them regulations, and it's affecting people now, buying, selling, refinancing. So let's, in this next part, dig into that, how you can assist people, James, at Green and Green Mortgages, and where are the opportunities, what are investors getting wrong?
Yeah.
What are you seeing at the moment?
I think it is a great time of opportunity. When we saw in COVID, when rates were the lowest they'd been in 300 years, every man and his dog wanted to buy a house, and we saw what that did to house prices. So especially if you're looking to invest, is those times when people are sitting on the fence, or even worse, like running for the hills, is you've got less competition. Like, yes, your financing costs are going to be a little bit more expensive, but you've already acquired that asset then. And for most people I speak to, and probably you do as well, is if it's your own home, then you're going to be there for life, hopefully. Or if it's going to be an investment, most people hold property for the long term as well. So trying to be too clever with it and trying to time the market, or, oh, now's not the right time, is people shouldn't waste a crisis. Like, this is not by any means a crisis, but at times when people are thinking about it, that's when you want to be jumping in. When you're taking out a mortgage, like I say, it's normally for 30 odd years. So you buy that asset now, the terms you get on your mortgage might be that for the next 2 or 5 years, but you've already got the asset then, so when rates drop, you can enjoy it once you've already got hold of it.
It's really interesting that you know, a length of a mortgage is 30 years, right? So we're looking at that, and obviously we're quite young. People stepping in the market at you know, or being through the market for such a long period of time, and older generation now looking at a mortgage going 30 years, and interest rates being so high. I guess that's the stipulation there, and the scary thing for them.
Well, I think as well, like, your situation always changes. Like, it's never like your life right now will be completely different to what it is in 10 years. So we say to people, like, when you take a mortgage out, just look at it in chunks. So I've got this deal for the next 2 years. Just focus on that, because 2 years from now, rates might be lower, your house might be worth more, you might have more money that you can chuck at it because you're earning more. So just constantly review it like that. I mean, some lenders will let you do a 40-year mortgage. I think in America they've brought out 50-year mortgages. Wow. So it's like there's loads you can do there, but yeah, your circumstances change. So although it might start off at 30 odd years, you might not go all that way.
How do you kind of, you know, you've mentioned there, you look at that 2 to 5 years. I know a lot of clients obviously looking to invest in property are like, well, I want to pay it off someday, Dave. You know, so you look at that 30-year mortgage, you'll be paid off and you'll have paid X. But if you keep renewing them mortgages 2 and 5 years, are you ever paying it off, James?
Well, it depends what people's like plan is. Like, we always say, like, for property investment, start with the end in mind. We get people that come to us, and a bit like when I started, it's like, I want to invest in property, and it's like, well, why? It's like, well, it's just the right thing to do, isn't it? And it's like, well, yeah, it is, but you've got to have a strategy for it. So are you looking for long-term cash flow? Are you looking for yield? Are you looking to build equity? Because it's rare that one property will do both of those for you. You're normally looking at a cheaper property that'll rent really well, putting it on interest only, that's going to cash flow really well. Those sort of properties probably aren't going to attract the capital growth that the more in-demand areas would be. But if you're buying in the more in-demand areas, it's going to cost you more to buy it. It's going to cost you more in your mortgage because you're borrowing more, but the rent might not be more than what you think it's going to be. So start with end in mind and think, well, which one are you going to go for? We speak to a lot of investors where they have no intention of ever paying it off. Like, that property is their cash machine. So they'll put it on interest only, enjoy the cash flow, live off that for a bit, and then 10 years from now, if it's doubled in value, great, they'll pull a nice chunk of money out. They'll live on that money, or they'll invest it into something else. Or you have the people that just want to pay stuff off and have this big, massive portfolio in 20 years, but it's rare they'll do both.
Yeah, no, you've summed that up great, and I think it is critical to understand the property, the area. Obviously, in Hull, we're very fortunate that, you know, them areas are yet so close but so different, and you can make them work for different ways. The strategy is, obviously, if you refinance them, you want to be in that capital growth area, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, or you've got to buy them super well. And I think that's a changing market at the moment, isn't it? You know, to get them unicorn deals is a lot harder. You know, again, the rates are increasing. Do you want to let us know on how that's looking at the moment?
Yeah, so I mean, rates kind of like shot up when the war in Iran kicked off. No market likes uncertainty. That drove the price of oil up, which then impacted the rest of the investment markets, when mortgages as well are another type of investment. So yes, you might get your mortgage from HSBC or whatever, but the money in the background keeps changing hands on the international money market. So any sort of rise in cost in that sort of market then filters into the others. The Bank of England actually haven't done anything. When they pull their lever to change things, that's such a sweeping change where it doesn't just impact mortgages, it impacts everything. So believe it or not, the Bank of England are quite reluctant to do something because of the massive ripple effect it does have. So it's the lenders that have took it upon themselves to make the changes, and thankfully, in the last 2 weeks, we have seen them start to come back down now, because there's more and more talks of ceasefire and stuff like that. So there's a bit more optimism in the market. So what was it, about a month ago, there was quite a lot of mortgages that had sub 5% so 4 or 3% something. You're now looking at 5 now, but that is the historical average. So we have been blessed, believe it or not, with COVID. Rates hit a 300-year low, and I think people certainly of our generation and younger, that's all they've known. So they think, oh, we're going to go back to that. It's not going to happen. Where we're at now is kind of the average. So yeah, it's just is what it is, really.
Historically, rates was 12-13%. If you're looking back at some of my clients, some investors, when they bought in 2006 and before, them rates was
in the 90s it was insane, and back then they weren't really fixed rate mortgages either. So if the bank was like, yeah, we're going to put the rate up 2%, you just had to cop it. You couldn't do anything about it. Thankfully, since then we did have the crash in 2008, and there was so much regulation brought in where, touch wood, something like that should never happen again. And I think we're still kind of recovering from 2008 in certain areas. So governments and regulators will do their utmost best to avoid anything like that happening again.
Yeah. We've had certain things happen to investors, which has changed the landscape of investing in property. And I think, we're getting it double-barreled at the moment. Obviously, we can't control the wars, we can't control the interest rates, etc. But then when we're hit with, new compliance regulation and we're just being squeezed of so much, what are your thoughts and how are people reacting to that? Are they trying to get money out, to keep going, buy some more to replace the income they've lost? Or, what are you kind of seeing on that front?
I think it's bringing about a bit of... almost like a culture change, really. I think we're seeing almost like a bit of a changing of the guard, where we're chatting about those investors that have been investing since the 90s, where you could buy something cash, no questions. If you're having tenant issues, houses were that cheap, you could put it on a credit card. Or tenant issues, there was very little regulation, so you could just boot them out and change the locks, like that sort of thing. Those sort of investors that have been in the market for 30, 40 years, and it's just one extra thing for them to battle, we're starting to see them exit the market. So we're seeing them offer their properties to their tenants at a discount, so the discount can act as their deposit. So if they've been renting from you for 20 years, they might not have been able to save a deposit. You can give them the equity and do that. We're seeing a lot of younger people get into property now, so I think they're the ones that are kind of like sniffing out the opportunity. I think because of the amount of information that's out there now, and the amount of like property courses and things like that, is there's so many young people that have been on these courses and got this information, and like they're the ones wanting to get into it. So there's kind of almost like this generational change. And I just think how people are investing now as well. Like 10 years ago, I remember when I first got into property, it was like HMOs were the big thing. Whereas like now, because of the cost of gas and electric and Article 4, more people are now going into serviced accommodation, which nobody ever spoke about 10 years ago.
Yeah. You're exactly right. I think obviously there will always be these shifts in property. It's stable. It's very stable, and it's how you tweak it to make money or to. It's
just that survival thing, isn't it? Like the businesses that survive are the ones that can adapt, and I think investors are going to have to be the exact same thing. You're going to have to adapt to the regulation. I think if it's implemented properly, it's only going to raise the standard of the sector anyway. But those that aren't willing to adapt or can't adapt, they're the ones that are going to struggle.
Yeah, and fall by the wayside. A lot of properties are at the moment in Section 21. There's been hundreds just in this region for landlords trying to escape the market before the changes, which is super bizarre. We're at a point here where rents are going to skyrocket, and that's a real shame for tenants and etc. and the cost of living crisis. But if we're having these impending changes and compliance is getting stricter, the costs are more, and that's just going to amplify the rents. But what we're seeing is a mass exodus. Again, supply and demand is creating another increase. So there is real opportunity out there for people to succeed. It's just whether you're willing to do it, bite the bullet on the interest rates.
Yeah.
I think you said at a recent event, people, jumping off a plane. I think you mentioned it was your synergy or something. Yeah,
there's investing and owning your own property. It's a long term thing, so it's a bit like a long haul flight. On a long haul flight, you're gonna have some turbulence, but you don't jump out the escape, do you? You just put your seatbelt on and wait until you land. And I think people need to take the same sort of approach with their investments as well, because it's constantly changing. People do need to adapt. I mean, in the last 10 years, we've had the tax laws changing for people buying in their own name. Yeah. We've had COVID. We've had 2 wars. We've had all sorts. Now renters' rights. So it's just one extra thing that people just need to overcome, really.
To sum it up, though, properties are as safe as houses.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, we live on a small island, don't we? We're not building enough houses. People always need somewhere to live. The population's always getting bigger. So, yeah, until we actually get on top of all of that, then, yeah, historically, a house does keep going up in value, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think to sum it up, we've got to, stick in there. People like yourself can surely assist people in generating them portfolios, discussing the strategies early so that they can implement the right strategies to do that. You've rightly said, you've come out of professional sport, you've used that to leverage and have some residual income alongside what you're doing now, which is great. Obviously, Green and Green Mortgages supporting people, investing in our city, which is very important to myself and people alike. So I want to thank you very much for coming on the Property Untangled. Really appreciate your time. Hopefully that is a great insight to the mortgage world for you guys listening to the Property Untangled on 107 FM with myself, Dave Petersen.